My gun was whining by the door, so I decided to take it for a walk this morning. And I came across something weird out here. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to leave money on that thing or what? They gotta pay to go in here? That's weird. People are weird. Somebody carried that all the way back here to do that to be funny. Okay. It's the last day of gun season. What I'm doing is I got a quartering wind to the face, and I'm just sneaking through known bedding areas in the cattails. I got the wind covering my noise a little as long as I go slow. And I know there's some big bucks in here, but it's an ocean of cattails. Getting on top of one might be hard. I'm just gonna wander around and sneak into these bedding areas and see if I can get close enough to tag one. We'll see. Just having fun. I like to get out and do this at least once a year. I used to do this all season, every day when I was younger. And I killed a lot of big bucks doing this, but going into known bedding areas on a crosswind. But I'm on a track now in the snow, but it looks like it's yesterday's track. But it's leading right into a known bedding area. Right up here, there's a couple of little tiny trees in the cattails and some high spots that they bed in. If I can ease into that opening without them detecting me and they're bedded there, which is a big if, I have a shot. And then I go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And over the years, I've learned exactly where those bedding spots are in these cattails. And they're spots where nobody goes. So at the end of the week, they're even better because all the dry land and stuff gets just pummeled with people. And the deer go back into these remote spots in the cattails. Luckily, it's gotten really cold and the water's frozen. And that really gives me an advantage. It puts me about 12 inches higher than where I would be if I was sinking into this stuff. And it stops the slurping noise on my feet. I'm actually standing on ice and I'm above the cattails, as you can see. Otherwise, the cattails are usually over my head. So if a buck jumps up, he's going to have a hard time running on this ice. He's going to jump more, hop more. He's going to be above the cattails a little more. A lot more likely from this elevated position and his elevated position, I get a good shot off. So this little group of trees right here, that's a bedding area. It's a little higher ground where everything else is underwater out here. That's drier ground. It's got humps. And there's beds all around. I know that from scouting. You really can't see that on an aerial, and you don't notice it from all the way over in the woods. And right here's a nice opening. So what I did was I came in on a crosswind to this opening, and then I'll be within 75 yards to break the opening, but I can already see into there. But I get another 20 yards and I can shoot. So I'll have the gun ready and I'll get into this opening and I'll just creep and I'll be ready for anything to jump. Well, apparently nobody's home because nothing jumped and there's no tracks in here. But you can see some pretty good rubs in here. This one's rubbed every year. It's hard to see this year, but you can kind of see marks. The thing's so scarred it's not really cutting through. And the same with that tree over there. There's some pretty big gouges in it. But doesn't look like they've been out here real recently. It does look like 2 days ago there was one in here because there's broken ice. And the ice just formed yesterday. Yeah, and there's some 2-day-old tracks in here. But you can see the rub on that tree. But you can see how the scarred portion ain't rubbing. And there's beds back in behind it. Just nothing home right now. So we'll go on to the next bedding area. And there are some random beds along the way, so we'll kind of poke our way, but we slow down into really good bedding areas and speed up in the in-between stuff so that we're not wasting too much time. So now we gotta go way past this island tip. There's another bedding area out there that we'll hit. Poopies, a lot of poopies. At one time of the year, there's got to be a lot of deer back here. You can see another big rub over there. That tree there is hit too. You see a good bed back there. Nothing looks too recent. It's kind of open for right now. But they'll tuck into the cattails next to this stuff later in the year, like right now, where they're out of the sun. You know, because this dryness goes into the cattails a little ways. Water will pick back up about 100 yards or so. It's always good to have the sun to your back too, so if they do hear you and look, they don't see you. Coming up on a bedding area out there, I see this rub. Man, that's a high one. Wow. Look at this. The center of it is at the bottom of my ribs. It's got marks way up in here. That's right there. That is about 5 foot something, because I'm 6 foot and I'm this tall. Like 5.5 feet off the ground. Wow. Boy, this side's even more ripped up and still same height. Look at that. That's a monster. Holy crap. Oh, there's another one right over there. We got a trail here that goes into that bedding. Now, all the sign out here, the rubs, the scrapes, everything right here is dried up and old. So I don't think he's out there now, but he might be further up where we're headed. I know this area gets some gun pressure, so maybe not right here, but wow, those are some hell of a rubs. He was here earlier though. I should keep this in mind for bow hunting next year. I mean, this is right on top of the bedding. This isn't a bad spot. Never really hunted here. Probably should. That's one of the good things about this stalking these deer. You know, out here in these cats with the gun. You go into places where they think they live, and it's almost like spring scouting. You're finding all kinds of sign. You're seeing where these deer were 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when rut was on, and you're really getting a good idea about how to go about bow hunting this next year by gun hunting it this year. You know, that's one of the things that makes this fun, even though you go so far without getting a shot, because most of the time these things are set up so well. You jump them, you hear them, maybe you don't even hear them, and they just slip away. But you're learning a lot too while you're taking that chance on that lottery ticket of actually killing them. This is a hard task because these cattails are so high. But these are the bedding areas. There's a bedding area over in here, over in here. There's a lot of bedding right in this area. And those big rubs are coming out of here going that way. But there was no fresh sign until I got to this spot right here. I found my first bed right here. And you can see where a deer, but it looks like a very small deer, probably a fawn, was looking to bed here but didn't. It came in here, walked around, and walked back out. But I'm just starting to get into tracks now from the mainland to here. And I'm trying to stay in the cattails that are low enough to shoot if buck jumps. Which the bucks might be bedded deeper, but I can't bump them by myself and kill them. So I'm going to try and creep along here, and hopefully there's one close enough to the transition that tries to shoot through. It's not going to want to go that way because there's open water, but it'll try and shoot this way. So I'm trying to keep this open stuff to my edge and stay on this side of it, so that when they jump, they think they have a chance to get over. And if I can just stay in these open swaths, most of the cattails are deep, but there's little open areas right along the bedding. And if I can get lucky and jump one in the right spot, I'll get a shot. This little bit of wind is making just enough noise for me to creep up on these things if I go slow and I only move when the wind gusts. But I'm just starting to get into the bedding area. So we'll see what happens, but I ain't shooting something unless it's a good buck. Gunshot over there. Maybe I kicked one. Lots of tracks in here. This trail's got a lot of deer coming in here this morning to bed up in here. Lots of tracks on this trail. These are the nice low cattails, so see what happens. I'm going to creep along these low cattails like this. Hopefully they push in front of me, who knows. But if the tracks go back up into here, I might have to go after them if I see a good buck track. So far I can't make out a good buck track. Hard to do it when there's sparse snow though. This wind noise really helps, but I can't emphasize enough, you still have to go really, really slow. Like slower than a dead squirrel. Because if you break a branch, a twig, a crack the ice, any of that, that don't sound like wind. And those deer are listening. The wind will cover some of your noise, but not all your noise. You still gotta go super slow and be ready. Never heard a thing, but there's big tracks broken through the ice. So there's one in front of me. Doesn't look like he's running, he's sneaking, but he's breaking through, trying to get away. But this stuff's pretty heavy here. Might not be able to see him even at close range. We'll just keep on him for a little bit until we lose him. Mile out into these cattails, and you find a couple of these little tags, and you can see that one's rubbed. Look at, it's just a tangle of cattails. How did it get its antlers in there and rub that? When you look around, a lot of these are rubbed, you know? I can see another one. That one back there is rubbed. This one's got a little fresh rub on it. See how it's green? The one in the background's orange. That was done not too long ago. Still green. But I seen these little trees out here. And wherever you have these little trees, you have high enough ground to get them out of the water, and you have good bedding areas. Our wind is kind of going into it. I'm trying to keep it to one side to come in on a crosswind, but it's kind of hard in this situation. I have to completely circle them to come in the other way. So I'm just trying to get a crosswind, which is probably better for jumping them anyways. You come in from downwind and they're really suspicious. This is the only tree here with any height to it, about as big around as my wrist. There's a bed underneath it here where there's actually some ground above the water. And that's what I mean about these lone trees out here. If you get a lone tree out in cattails, there's almost always a bed under it. You can see tine marks there. And there's actually a pretty high rub on this side. This is a pretty good bed. Probably used a lot year after year. I can kind of see some more bushy trees this way, so I'm going to try and find a way to get through the cattails that way. I'm making a lot of noise, though. This is really noisy over here, and the wind's died down. Just do my best, I guess. Way out here in these cats, and you wonder why an area like this holds really big bucks despite really heavy pressure, and it's because the deer are actually bedding a half mile from the nearest tree, and nobody's going through here through the water. I don't see any sign of people anywhere. I find dead carcasses back here all the time, like this one. You know, there's a jawbone, a rib cage. There's a head laying over there. Pretty big size head. No antlers though. That was one giant doe, I'll tell you that. The nose is chewed off from coyotes. I found more coyote tracks out here than I did deer tracks. This one got picked clean. They even ate all the hide. You can be walking out here and you're walking on ice the whole way. Like I'm standing on ice here. And you can look right beside you, there's open water. And really, you got to be careful out here, even when it's been, 13 degrees for a couple days, because the ice might be, 4 inches thick or 6 inches thick. But there will always be warm spots where the vegetation is rotting under the ice and heating up the ice. And in some cases, those spots can be really bad. Like especially where there's no cattails, so you got a little open area. If it gets hot, I mean, that stuff might be, over your head deep. And that's not exaggerating. I mean, there's been plenty of times I've gone into my armpits when I was younger and not as careful as I am now. But you got to be careful where you step. In here, it's not too dangerous. Even if I step there, I can see cattails sticking through the water. But just to show you, I can jump up and down right here. I ain't gonna break the ice. But right there's not even any ice. But if there's cattails, there's ground enough to hold you up. I mean, even if you poked a boot through, you wouldn't go completely through. So you kind of avoid spots where there's no cattails and there's, you know, like a grassy area or open area, you know. And obviously you don't step in open water. But, you know, and the thicker ice is kind of white like that. If it's like see-through, it might not be as thick, or if it's dark. Look at all these trails out here. This is a maze. Most people would never dream that deer live out here. And out here is why people on the outskirt with all this pressure shoot some big bucks, because they wouldn't if it weren't for the case that these deer had this area to hide in. You know, and even walking around here, you know, you go through a good bedding area, and if you're near land, you hear some shooting on the land, you know, you jump some. You know, I jumped a few. I even heard one walking in front of me for a while, and I tried walking behind it, but it knew who I was. And I never caught up. But you jump them, they run up on that land, you hear people shooting them. So you kill a lot of deer just walking around out here. But actually killing one yourself is pretty tough. And the really big stuff doesn't come out anyways. It runs circles around you usually. It just stays in here. But you kill a lot of little ones that run out. Most big ones won't run out into the open woods. They just stay in here during the gun season. Just jumped a good buck right here. I jumped about 3 deer, but one of them was jumping real high with a rack right in front of me. I got him in the crosshairs for a second and he disappeared. It's just too high at cattails. I had some low cattails going through here, so I started coming into the low cattails. They jumped right on the edge here, about 20 yards from me. A few went that way, and the buck went that way. I just got a glimpse of his rack coming up, and it was a shooter for sure. But he just crashed away, but he couldn't run through the stuff. He had to jump because of his rack, and it almost gave me a shot. I got the crosshairs just on him as he disappeared. But that's it. I mean, I can get into these bedding areas, but it's hard to kill them. But you get an opportunity or two. Every now and then a deer makes a mistake and you kill him. I mean, he ain't gonna leave these cattails. I might even run into him again. But he's gonna be pretty weary now. But I circled around here. So he smelt me over there. He heard me walk around. And right here, I was making a lot of noise. He had to hear me coming, but he didn't jump till I was 20 yards from him.